So we are bombarded by this message. Be yourself. What does it mean? How does it translate in science? And how can you be your genuine self? Be yourself or be true to your identity is predicated on knowing what your identity is, or just following what feels right. In modern era, this translates in catchphrases like get in touch with your feeling or follow your emotions. This is missing the point. So your trauma is going to shape the way your brain is. And also your emotions are mostly designed as chemical reaction in order for you to survive. Let's dive into it. In the book, It Didn't Start With You, the author makes the case that unhealthy behaviors come from trauma that are experienced directly or indirectly through your family. Traumatic event, like an act of violence or separation from a loved one, can affect a person deeply. Secondly, he explains that trauma can be passed on to the next generation via genes. According to Stanford University cell biologist Bruce Lipton, emotions like fear and anger can biochemically alter the genetic expression of an offspring. That means that if you don't do anything, you'll just be the result of your life experience, which most likely will include your direct and inherited traumas. Loretta Browning, in her book Habits of a Happy Brain, highlights emotions are driven by chemical reactions. Let's look at the more prominent chemicals. Oxytocin produces the feeling of being safe with others, now called bonding. It motivates you to trust others and to find safety in companionship. Dopamine produces the joy of finding things that meet your needs, like when you figure out the answer to a complex problem. Dopamine motivates you to get what you need, even when it takes a lot of effort. Unfortunately today, getting likes and views also trigger the brain's reward system to release dopamine. As such, it's very easy to get addicted to social media. Serotonin produces the feeling of being respected by others, pride. It motivates you to get respect, which expands your mating opportunities and protects your offspring. Endorphins produce oblivion that masks pain, often called euphoria. Motivates you to ignore pain so you can escape from harm when you're injured. And finally, cortisol is a great chemical to push you to do something. When you don't feel happy and cortisol is released, it's probably because you haven't done something you were supposed to. Overall, chemicals that make us unhappy are as important as the one that will make us happy. Indeed, it's very important that unhappy chemicals are warning us of potential threats. For example, when the cortisol is released when you're hungry. Today, we want the result without the effort. We want to be able to secrete dopamine without expending any energy. We want to feel respected and pride without achieving anything significant. But it's hard to fool the brain. That's why this type of behavior leads to long-term unhappiness. Once you understand how the brains work, it's easier to control your emotions. It's better to understand how your emotions work and to acknowledge that it's okay to be sad or unhappy sometimes. Acknowledge your emotions, but don't let them control you, especially when you're doing the right things. So, is it possible to be constantly happy? Every time your happiness chemicals are released, your brain makes a note about the process that led you there and classifies it under the label, "This makes me happy." This way, your brain can default to the same strategy next time, but sadly, it won't bring the same result. Due to habituation, an experience makes you more happy when it's new, but it can't make you happy forever. Let's take an example, winning the lottery. Does it make you happy? The Swedish study of the New Warwick Business School found little evidence that winning a large amount of money in the lottery had any significant impact on winners' happiness, which is a measure of experience well-being. They also found that winning big in the lottery does not substantially improve people's current mental health. This is consistent with a study by Nobel Prize winning economist Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton, which showed that beyond £65,000 threshold, measures of evaluative well-being, so the assessment people make about their life, continue to rise with income, whereas measures of experience well-being like happiness or mental health do not. So how can you be your true self? I believe that starting with the end in mind is the best way to discover your true self. So picture yourself in the future, it's your funerals, and you have your friends and family and all your close community that come to see you. 3 people come on the stage to talk about your life. 1 friend, 1 family member, and 1 person from your community. What would you want them to say about you? Would you want them to say that you were a good father, a good friend, or maybe a great professional? Write down all the things and classify them by category. Maybe being a good leader, maybe being part of your community, or maybe being a good friend. Collect all of this information and break it down into categories. The picture that all of these things designed is your true self, is the person you want to become. That's who you are. That's your identity. Because that's the one that you have designed. That's the one you want. You are an actor in your life. So design a plan that will lead you to achieve each of these objectives while avoiding short-term distractions. Let us know in the comment section what type of person you want to become. In conclusion, life is a series of choices. Being alive means constantly choosing whether it's worth to give up one thing in favor of another. It's always a battle between short-term versus long-term, or between pain and pleasure. This is the quote I like from Mark Manson. The secret of success is learning how to use pain and pleasure instead of having pain and pleasure use you. At the end of the day, the biggest mistake is not to choose and become a slave of your emotions. If you're getting value in this video, let us know by hitting that like button and share it with a friend that needs it.